Welcome to the Storyaday podcast. This is Julie Duffy, encouraging you to be a writer today, not someday. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's Julie here from the Storyaday podcast. We are in April as I record this podcast, and you know what that means? It means it's Poetry Month. You know what else it means? It means that Storyaday is less than a month away. Are you ready? No? Well, that's okay, because nobody's ever quite ready for a challenge like this. But the upside of it is that you get to indulge in a month of creativity with other people. You get to steal their energy borrow their energy and have a dedicated amount of time where you get to focus. You get to tell people to go away because it's Storyaday, and you get to take some time for yourself every day and explore your writing. People always get super excited this time of year because you never know what's coming with Storyaday. It's not like some other challenges where you can plan and plot and you know where you're going. Storyaday, there's just like every day is a new day, and every day you discover something new about your writing, and maybe you talk to a new person in the community, and it's just, I'm so looking forward to it. I'm so excited to get this started. But before it gets started, having said that you can't plot and plan, there are some things that you can do to plan for success. And I'm going to be talking a lot about that this month. If you're not already on the Storyaday mailing list, come over to storyaday.org, put your name in one of those boxes on the page or the thing that pops up at the end. I'll send you my short story framework, but I'll also invite you to follow along as I put together all of the stuff that I've learned over the past 11 years and distilled down for you to have the most amazing month of writing. And to give you an idea of why I want you to do this, I have been doing this for 11 years, and I've been following some of the writers who joined me that first year and some of the writers who just joined me last year. And I just see so many great things. I see them taking their writing more seriously. I see their writing improving. We just did a critique week in the Superstars group, and the quality of the writing of these people, because they are committed and because they're turning up week after week, month after month for Superstars meetings and for writing sprints and for the various workshops that I run. And it's, their dedication and their persistence and their willingness to stick at this has just, some of the stories were amazing. And I'm also seeing people posting about their publication successes. Every week, it seems like, certainly every month, I see a new post from somebody who says, or somebody contacts me to say, this story is getting published, and it started out as a Storyaday prompt, either during May or during September, sometimes just a prompt from the Write on Wednesday prompts. So do not underestimate the value of simply turning up. All right, I want to talk to you today about two things. One is about closing the gap between where you might be now and where you want to be. Here's a thing that I learned relatively late in life. There's a gap between starting a new thing, a new practice, learning a new skill, and getting to where you want to go. And that gap is uncomfortable. I really learned this first from Dr. Julie Helmrich, who was on the podcast earlier this year, and you can go back and listen to how she talks about the process for making meaningful change in your life. But one of the things when I was in one of her events called Story Camp, and it's coming up again, you can look out for that. But what she talked about in that event was the fact that when you are trying to change from the old way you did something, and you have this new vision of what you could be, there's this kind of no man's land in between. So I've also discovered, and that no man's land is uncomfortable, right? So you don't want to be not writing anymore, and you're not quite at the place yet where you're writing regularly or writing as well as you would like to, and you don't kind of know how to get from there or as you're trying to go from one state to the other, you're in this no man's land where you're trying new stuff and you're trying to make habits, and it's uncomfortable, and it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's, the old workout metaphor. If you want to build muscle, you stress your muscles. It's uncomfortable, it's sore, and then they heal themselves and they build themselves back stronger. So there's that. There's the wanting to, this sort of existential going from not writing to writing, and there's a gap in between where you have to do some of the, sometimes you're going to feel uncomfortable doing the work. You're going to write things that don't seem that good. You're going to fail. You're going to miss days. So there's a discomfort in that no man's land on the way to getting where you want to go. But also there's a similar thing in starting a new habit. For example, committing to taking part in Storyaday May. There is the excitement of getting started. So I love an acronym. So I've come up with this acronym about the GAP. And it's roughly analogous if any of you were South Park fans back in the olden times. You may remember there was an episode about underpant gnomes. They were stealing underpants. They were going to make their fortune by stealing underpants from the humans. And they had a whole PowerPoint presentation about it. I think it was a whiteboard. But it was phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 3, profit. And in phase 2, there's just a big question mark. And I think that's what happens every time we try to start a new thing, like getting, a new practice, like taking part in Storyaday May. You've got the getting started, and then you've got the A, the sort of in the middle where you haven't figured it all out yet. And then you've got the P for where you're making persistent progress. You've got the habits in place now. You're writing regularly. You know how to get to your desk. Starting a new habit is exciting and interesting, and you've read all the things, and you've studied and you're ready for it, and it's all exciting and new. In the middle, there's that where you haven't quite figured out how to make it stick. And then if you can get to the P, to the persistent progress, if you can get to the point where the new habit is embedded, that you write regularly, that you seek feedback regularly, that you implement, that you learn new skills. Once you get to that part of building the new habit, it's easy again. So it's fun and exciting and easy at the beginning. It's fun and exciting and easy at the end. And you've just got that little that little gap to bridge. I'm going to help you with that through Storyaday, through everything I do here. That's my aim, is to get you over that moment. So one of the things that will help you in your progress is to improve your skills, obviously. And I'm thinking, changing subjects a little bit here, that as the summer approaches, summer is always a big conference season for writing conferences and retreats and workshops and all of that good stuff. And last year, everything kind of got scrambled and everything went online, or it just disappeared. A lot of things turned around to online events really admirably, really quickly. It was fun to watch. This year, there's going to be much of the same, and people have kind of got their act together again. And they may not all be, like last year, I think a lot of people threw up events and they were just free because they didn't really know what they were doing. And they're like, we're just going to do something because we want to help, which is great. This year, I think you're going to see a little more in the way of people charging for their services again, which is absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. But it does mean that you have to think carefully about where you invest your time and money and energy. And it's not just the time and money, it is the energy. There is a short list of things that I think you need to look for in events, or that you can find in events, actually. And I think you have to think about which ones of those matter the most to you right now. And I do have a shiny objects syndrome worksheet that I'm going to send, that I'll send to you if you sign up through the link in the podcast notes. And it talks about this. It talks about helping you make the decision about what you need and what you need right now, which are two slightly different questions. And so I've come up with another acronym, which is my ShortLIST. There are 4 main areas of skills and learning and buckets of things that you get out of events that you need. I think to make progress in your writing, you need learning. So that's an L, the L of list. You need to learn new skills. You need to learn about the business. You need to learn techniques for your writing. You need to learn about mindset, all that learning. That tends to happen at conferences and masterclasses. So if you go to a conference and everybody's giving talks in different tracks, and you can go to the different track and you can learn about dialogue and you can learn about revision, you can learn about how to get your story published, and all of these things you're learning, and you're just passively sort of soaking all that stuff in, making frantic notes and saving it for when you actually need that particular piece of information. If you're lucky enough to get to go to like a pre-conference masterclass with an expert, then you're going to be going really deep into one really narrow topic, and it might be awesome. That might be exactly what you need. So if you're looking for learning, you're probably looking at conferences and masterclasses. The second letter in my LIST acronym is implementation. This is a thing that I think we overlook when we look at events. We tend to think we're going to go to an event and learn something, but there's another type of event you can go to, which is a workshop or a retreat. And in a workshop or retreat, there might be some learning, there'll be some lectures, some structure to it, but a lot of the value is in the actual implementation time you get. So maybe the afternoons are blocked out for writing, or maybe the mornings are classes, afternoons are writing, or vice versa, or there's evening socializing and just the rest of the day is for writing. Maybe you're in rooms with other people, maybe you're not, but you have the time to implement what you're learning. This is super important because you can go to all the conferences and masterclasses you want, but if you never implement what you're learning, you're never going to get the benefit of what you just paid for. The other thing that you can look for when you're joining an event or a group or some kind of writing something is the third letter in my LIST acronym, which is support. Groups, writing groups that you might go to once a month, they might be focused on critique, they might just be focused on socializing, they might have guest speakers. What you really get out of those kinds of groups that have regular meetings with a kind of, some kind of agenda, what you're getting is some learning, maybe you get some implementation time. What you're really getting from a group like that is support. You're showing up in a place where other people are also trying to do this writing thing, and you're just getting that little reaffirmation that this is a legitimate choice as a lifestyle. It's not just writers who do this, wine clubs and golf clubs and everything. We exist, we form these groups so that we can find like-minded people, partly I think so that we don't have to make small talk. I saw an article the other day about somebody fearing the world opening up again because they've forgotten how to make small talk, and if you hang out with people who are interested in the same things as you can very quickly bypass the awkwardness of meeting new people because you've got a common interest, and it's very easy to have meaningful conversations with people. And when you leave a group like that, you feel like, yeah, it's a legitimate choice to say I'm a writer. Because look, there are all these other people doing it, and maybe we shouldn't need that, but we're social creatures, and I think that helps. The last thing in my LIST acronym is something that is hard to get when you sign up for a one-off event. And it's that level of trust, of getting to know the people in your group, of knowing that the speakers are going to, that things are going to be well curated, that I always find that when I join a new course or a new event, there's a sort of learning curve for me in how the organisers communicate, and I find that a little bit stressful. So I'm trying not to join too many new things now, because that takes energy. And if I can find a community or a course or a teacher that works for me, I tend to stick with that one person in that one area for a long, long time, because I trust them, and it helps me to get comfortable. And then I'm not spending all this energy that I could be using on my creativity, building trust with the next teacher or the next organisation. So think about that too. It's a little more nebulous, but as you're looking at which courses to take, which online events to go to, go with the ones that you already trust, or that somebody has recommended and that they trust. And then, consider sticking with it for a while so that you get to stop worrying about the sort of transactional stuff, like where do I turn up, when do I turn up, what's my password, all that kind of stuff, and you get to just focus on the content and being present in whatever event you are at. So that's my little sermon for you this week, is to mind the gap, understand that getting started is easy and getting into the flow is easy, but the middle part is kind of that moment. And the list, when you're looking at events and conferences and online events and classes to turn up for, think about learning, implementation, support, and trust, and which one of those weighs most heavily for you in this moment and with this organisation. If you want to learn to write, don't read another book or article. Start writing. I'm here to invite you to consider the Storyaday 3-day challenge. It's a challenge and a workshop that gets people writing and completing stories in just 3 days. And it works. I'm fanatical about getting more and more diverse stories into the world, and I think yours should be among them. If you're feeling the pull to write or level up your storytelling, let me hold your hand through 3 days of short story writing. Check out the 3-day challenge at storyaday.org/3DC. This week's writing prompt is in the last in the series of writing prompts about the senses. This one, I finally let you open your eyes and use them to convey what may have come more naturally to you in your writing, because we do consume a lot of stories through visual means, so we're sort of quite well versed in storytelling on TV or on the big screen. And it's tempting when you write a scene to just write what the character sees. So that's why I kept you away from those things the last 4 weeks. And you can go back to the podcast or the blog and find those prompts. They've all focused on different senses. This one, I'm allowing you to go to sight. But I put this in the context of the conversation I had with Matthew Salisis a few weeks ago, where we talked about how it matters what characters notice, who they are, where they were raised, what culture they're from, how society treats them. All of these are going to influence what they notice in the moment. So as you're using sight to describe what's around your character, think about who they are and what they would notice. Whether you're writing someone who's from a different ethnic background from you, or someone who's in a different time zone, or from a different country, or someone who's, just not you. What would they notice, and how is that influenced by where they come from? This is something that Lisa Cron talks about in her book Story Genius, and you can go back and listen to that podcast with Matthew Salisis as well. It's linked. I'm linking to, in the notes, I'm linking to the writing prompt. The actual prompt is that your character's searching for something and time is running out. And then I want you to focus on using visual imagery and focusing on what the character notices in order to give us subtle clues about who the character is and what's important to them. That's your writing prompt for this week. The link is in the notes, and you can find it at storyaday.org /site. All right. I'd love it if you left a comment. And as I say, I'm going to be doing a ton of warm-up exercises and giveaways and goodies for Storyaday May. So do make sure you're on the Storyaday mailing list. Come over to storyaday.org and sign up. And I will get you all of the good stuff, and you'll be ready and limber and ready to write in May. Until then, have a great writing week, and I'll be back here to give you more tips and tricks and all the good stuff next week. Leave a comment at the blog and tell a friend about this podcast if you're enjoying it. How about that? I'm doing the social media thing that everyone says you have to do. You don't have to tell a friend. It's entirely up to you. Anyway, go do some writing. That's what I want you to do. Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at storyaday.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week, and of course, keep writing.